This morning, today we'll be reading from the Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 29, entitled Talks Between Narada and King Rachinibahi. And today's text we'll be covering is 26 to 27. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayam Mudirayat
Jaya Mudiraya.
Nasta Preshva Bhadrishu
Nastaprayeshu Abhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nitam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttam Shloke
Bhagavate Uttama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Okay, so I think we'll just read through both of these twice, and then I'll let you guys repeat them. Yaratmanam Abhigyaya
Yaramanam Avigyaya.
Bhagavatam Param Gurum
Bhagavantam Param Guru.
Purushastu Vishajita
Purushastu Vishajeta.
Guneshu Prakrite Swadrik
Guneshu Prakrite Swadrik.
Gunabhimani Satara
Gunabhimani Satara.
Karmani Kurute Vasha
Karmani Kurute Vasha.
Shuklam Krishnam Lohitam Va
Shuklam Krishnam Lohitam Va.
Yatha Karma Vijayate
Yata Karma Vijayate.
Nidatmanam Avigyaya
Yatmanam Avigyaya.
Bhagavantam Varam Guru
Bhagavantam Param Guru.
Purushastu Vishajita
Purushastu Vishajeta.
Guneshu Prakrite Swadrik
Guneshu Svaprakrite Swadrik.
Gunabhimani Satara
Gunabhimani Satara.
Karmani Kurute Vasha
Karmani Kurute Vasha.
Shuklam Krishnam Lohitam Va
Shuklam Krishnam Lohitam Va.
Yatha Karma Vijayate
Yata Karma Vijayate.
Both.
Nidatmanam Avigyaya.
Atmanam Avigyaya
Bhagavantam Param Guru.
Bhagavantam Param Guru
Purushastu Vishajeta.
Purushastu Vishajeta
Guneshu Prakrite Swadrik.
Guneshu Prakrite Swadrik
Nabhimani Satara.
Nabhimani Satara
Karmani Kurute Vasha.
Karmani Kurute Vasha
Shuklam Krishnam Lohitam Va.
Shuklam Krishnam Lohitam Va
Yata Karma Vijayate.
Yatha Karman Bhajate Dharmanam Avigyaya Bhagavatam Param Guru Purushastu Vishajeta Guneshu Prakrite Swadrik
Nabhimani Satara. Karmani Kurute Vasha.
Shuklam Krishnam Lohitam Va
Yata Karma Vijayate. Yadatmanam Avigyaya.
Bhagavantam Param Guru
Purushastu Vishvajeta
Guneshu Prakrite Swadrik
Gunadimani Satara
Karamani Gurute Vasha
Shukla Krishna Mohitamba Ita Karma Vijayate.
Okay, synonyms. Yada,
Yada
when.
when
Atmanam,
Atmanam,
the Supreme Soul.
the Supreme Soul,
Avigyaya,
Avidyaya,
forgetting.
forgetting,
Bhagavatam,
Bhagavatam,
the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
Param,
Param,
Supreme.
Supreme,
Guru,
Guru,
the Instructor.
the Instructor,
Purushaha,
Purusha,
the living entity.
living entity,
Tu,
Tu,
then.
and
Vishajita,
Shadita,
gives himself up.
gives himself up,
Guneshu,
Yeshu,
to the most. Prakriti,
Prakriti,
of material nature.
of material nature,
Swadrik,
Swadrik,
one who can see his own welfare.
one can see his own welfare.
Guna Abhimani,
Na'amani,
identify with the modes of nature.
identified with the modes of nature.
Saha,
Sa,
he,
he,
tada,
ya,
at that time.
yata,
Karmani,
amani,
fruit of activities.
fruit of activities.
Kurute,
Kurute,
performs.
performs.
Avashaha,
Avasha,
spontaneously.
spontaneously.
Shuklam,
Shukla,
white.
white,
Krishnam,
Krishna,
black.
black.
Lohitam,
Lohitam,
red.
red.
Va,
Va,
or.
or.
Yatha,
Yata,
according to.
according to.
Karma,
Karma,
work.
or.
Abhijayate,
Abhijayate,
takes birth. Alright, translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The living entity by nature has minute independence to choose his own good or bad fortune. But when he forgets his Supreme Master, the personality of Godhead, he gives himself up unto the modes of material nature. Being influenced by the modes of material nature, he identifies himself with the body, and for the interest of the body, becomes attached to various activities. Sometimes he is under the influence of the mode of ignorance, sometimes the mode of passion, and sometimes the mode of goodness. The living entity thus gets different types of bodies under the modes of material nature. Please repeat after me. The living entities by nature has minute independence to choose his own good or bad fortune.
good or bad fortune.
But when he forgets his Supreme Master,
It's the Supreme Master,
the personality of Godhead,
the personality of God.
he gives himself up unto the modes of material nature.
He gives himself up on the mode of material nature.
Being influenced by the modes of material nature,
As by the mode of material nature.
he identifies himself with the body and,
He identifies himself with the body and
for the interest of the body,
the interest of the body
becomes attached to various activities.
becomes attached to various activities.
Sometimes he is under the influence
Sometimes he's under the influence
of the mode of ignorance,
of the mode of ignorance.
sometimes the mode of passion,
Sometimes the mode of passion.
and sometimes the mode of goodness.
Sometimes the mode of goodness.
The living entity thus gets different types of bodies
He thus gets different types of bodies
under the modes of material nature.
under the modes of material nature.
Purple. These different types of bodies are explained in the Bhagavad Gita 13:22. Purusha prakriti stohi bhukte prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangosya sarasa yoni janmaso. The living entity in the material nature follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species. Because of associating with the modes of nature, the living entity gets a variety of bodies from the 8,000,004,000 forms. It is clearly explained herein that the living entity has a little independence, indicated by the word swadri, meaning one who can see his own welfare. The living entity's constitutional position is very minute, and he can be misled in his choice. He may choose to imitate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A servant may desire to start his own business and imitate his master, and when he chooses to do so, he may leave the protection of his master. Sometimes he is a failure, and sometimes he is successful. Similarly, the living entity, part and parcel of Krishna, starts his own business to compete with the Lord. There are many competitors out to attain the Lord's position, but to become like the Lord is not at all possible. Thus, there is a great struggle for existence with the material world, as different parties try to imitate the Lord. Material bondage is caused by deviation from the service of the Lord and attempts to imitate him. The Lord is imitated by Mayavadi philosophers who try to become one with the Lord in an artificial way. When the Mayavadi philosophers think themselves as liberated, they are under the delusion of mental concoction. No one can become one with or equal to God. To imagine this is to continue one's bondage in material existence. Om Agyantamaratasya Gnanjana Salakaya Chakshu Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sahapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Bhagadah Mahayam Vedakti Swabhrantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagapte Gopisa Gopaka Kanta Raha Kanta Namosate Tapta Kanchna Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hare Priye Panchakal Krapa Sindhu Evcha Patitanam Bhavani Vaishnavi Namo Namah Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pishthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shravana Paribhashakti Rishtarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srimad Saraswati Prabhupada Guru Sangha Saram Nome Agram Gramam Bhasate Patitatmam Yana Guru Dachita Rame Chasam. Okay, so I'll reread today's verse. The living entity by nature has minute independence to choose his own good or bad fortune. But when he forgets his supreme master, the personality of God, he gives himself up to the modes of material nature. Being influenced by the modes of material nature, he identifies himself with the body and, for the interest of the body, becomes attached to various activities. Sometimes he's under the influence of the mode of ignorance, sometimes the mode of passion, and sometimes the mode of goodness. The living entity thus gets different types of bodies under the modes of material nature. So we see that it comes down to this idea of independence within this verse. The living entity has a minute independence. He has a free will. God gives us this free will, and generally we tend to misuse it in our conditioned state, at least. He gives us the free will to love him, ultimately. You can love me or not. That's what love is. Love isn't something forced, isn't something to be forced or faked or anything. It's something completely natural and can only develop naturally or already exist. And so he gives us this free will to love him, and we have the choice, we have the desire, we have our desires, we have the freedom to desire. with that free will. It's not something mechanical. And Krishna is fulfilling those desires, whether it's good, whether it's bad. Uh, Often, even if you desire something, you won't necessarily get it, at least in this lifetime. But Krishna is so kind that he eventually fulfills that desire if you so choose to have that desire. So it may not be this lifetime that you get whatever desire that you're asking for, that you're really hankering for, but he's so merciful that he'll give it to you. We so much wanted to come to this material world, and he of course didn't want that, because that means you're going to forget him. You're going to suffer. You're going to go through different types of pains. You're going to experience a different kind of hurt that you ain't have to experience in the material and the spiritual world. So of course he doesn't want that for us, but because we chose to, and because we really wanted to, just to make us happy, because that's what we thought was going to make us happy, he fulfilled that desire, and we're here. We wanted to forget him. He gives us the Maya potency. That way we can't forget him. So overall, we have two basic choices. Yeah, because you could desire anything, but as I said, it's not guaranteed that you're necessarily going to get it. I could desire a Ferrari, but maybe it's not in my karma. I desire to be rich, but it's not in my karma. I desire to be beautiful, but it's not in my karma. I could desire so many things. Even like this arm, I could desire to move this arm, but if I end up paralyzed, what am I going to do? I'm not going to be able to move it. Or if I break it, now I have to have it braced up. I could desire so many things, but it doesn't mean that these things are going to come into fruition. So the main ability that you have is the freedom to desire. It's not that you get all these things, but you have the freedom to desire these things. And it comes down to two basic choices. You have the ability to desire your Maya, or your own sense gratification, or you have the ability to choose Krishna and his sense gratification. Those are is in one sense black and white. You could choose this or you could choose that. The choice is up to you, but that's your main free will that you have, is where you place that independence, that minute independence that we're given. Because you can't be God. You can't just do whatever you want. You're always going to be under the control of God in the material existence if you're in the material existence. So in today's purport, Prabhupada mentions that the living entity's constitutional position is very minute, and he can be misled in his choice. He may choose to imitate the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The servant may desire to start his own business and imitate his master, and when he chooses to do so, he may leave the protection of his master. So that is speaking to all of us here, unless you're a Nitya Siddha, but most of us are Nitya Buddhas. And so we came in this material world to, for lack of better words, get to play God. You know, I don't want to remember God because I want to be God. I want to be the center of my own world. I want to serve myself. I want to serve my senses. And I want things to go under my control, under the way I want it to go. So he gives us the opportunity. Okay, you know, here's a material world for you. You can start as the Lord Brahma even. You can create the material world. You can have all this under your control. You get to play as like God. You're not going to be able to be me, but you'll be able to have this opportunity. You want to forget me? Okay, there's Maya. Okay, now you are the center of your own universe. You don't even got to remember me. You don't even got to think that there is a God beside yourself. So he gives us that opportunity to get to play this God, but the material world is set up in such a way that nothing goes the way that we want it to go. You'll ultimately face frustration and defeat time and time again, in one way, shape, or form. But there's so many people that they claim that they are God as well. There are people that, oh, I've forgotten that I'm God. And when I realize that I'm God, I'll become God once more. But they're an illusion. Prabhupada mentions in the last couple sentences that when the mind-body philosophers think of themselves as liberated, they're under the delusion of mental concoction. No one can become one with or equal to God. To imagine this is to continue one's bondage in material existence. So we cannot be God. We're parts and parcels of God eternally. Krishna mentions that never was there a time that you did exist, nor I, nor all these kings. So he's saying individually, there wasn't a time that you didn't exist. Not that, I'm me and you are, I meant that I'm you and you are me.
We are all together.
Yeah, he's not saying that we're all together. He's saying that we're, huh? Yeah, we're not saying, he's not saying that, he's making a distinction that we're all individuals. This is clear in the Vedic text, although many people try to interpret it or say it in a different way, but Krishna clearly says and sets these distinctions throughout the Vedic literature, especially in the Bhagavatam and within Bhagavad Gita. But still, you'll have people that say this, and it's nonsense because we're like little pieces of a cloth that welcome. We're like, you could liken us to like a blanket, like a part of a blanket, We have the same quality of the blanket. We're made of the same stuff, but not to the same quantity. If you're cold and I say, oh, don't worry, this is not different than the blanket, you'll be warm. You're not going to be warm. It's just a little piece of the cloth because you're not the whole. We can never be the whole. As much as we want to, you'll never be that. You have the same qualities, but not to the same quantity. So, although we have these qualities, we're eternal, we're blissful, we're full of knowledge, you're never going to be the supreme controller, the supreme enjoyer. You're going to be the enjoyed. You're not going to get that opportunity. So, when you act outside of that, you're going to, of course, be frustrated because you're not acting in that position. You're not being true to yourself of who you really are. You're trying to be someone that you're not. So all this ultimately comes from ignorance of the self and ignorance of reality. And it's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam 2.6.10 that Parabhuter adharmasya tamasash chapi paschimah. That the back of the Lord is a place for all kinds of frustrations and ignorance, as well as for immorality. So the back of the Lord, when we turn our backs away from Him, we're not looking at the Lord directly, we're facing that ignorance. Prabhupada further mentions in the purport to this verse that those who are fortunate enough to have view of the Lord from the front can realize His personal feature, whereas those who are frustrated and are thus kept on the ignorant side of the Lord, or in other words, those who have the view of the Lord's back, realize Him in His impersonal feature. So, when we turn ourselves away from the Lord, when we keep our backs to the Lord, or we don't see Him directly, we gain ignorance. We don't see things properly. Because it's like you're in the light, you have a flashlight and all that. You're looking around in this room, but then you decide, you know what, I'm going to turn off that light. I don't need it. And so now you're walking through this room and you're stepping on broken glass, nails, a snake bites you, all kinds of different things because you're not able to see things properly. You're not seeing it as it is. Because Krishna, He is knowledge. He is everything you can imagine more. But when you turn your back away, immediately, ignorance is right there. Because Maya is right next to Krishna. You choose Krishna, you choose Maya. As soon as you turn your back away from Krishna, you're choosing Maya. But as soon as you turn your back away from Maya, you're choosing Krishna. So you have that choice. And within this purport, it talks about these different, talks about the living entity going through these different species of life. once they're in the material world. So, we hear that there's 8,400,000 species of life. So to go a little further into that, so specifically, out of those, there are 900,000 species living in the water. There are 2 million non-moving living entities, such as trees and plants. There are 1,100,000 species of insects and reptiles, and there are 1 million species of birds, and of course, we got 400,000 species of humans. So it's a whole lot of different types of possibilities of bodies that you can have. So many according to your desires. It's not that we get to be in a human body and act like an animal and forget the desires fulfilled in the human body. If we want to have animalistic desires, we can have the animalistic body that fulfills those desires. So it's stated in the Bhagavad Gita 14:18 that those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on earthly planets, and those in abominable modes of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. So, going back to these modes that were mentioned, depending on what modes you're acting in, goodness, passion, ignorance, and the desires thereof, the karma and the desire, you're going to face different types of bodies accordingly. So if I act really piously, I follow my dharma, I'm a real outrighteous man, but I'm not a pure devotee of the Lord, I can at least become like a demigod or so forth. But you're still going to have to fall back down at some point. You're still going to die. You're still going to be illusioned. You're still not in your proper position. You're ultimately still going to have unhappiness, unrest, because you're not being yourself. And if you act in the mode of passion, then it's say that you'll be on the earthly planets, oftentimes as a human, but that could also lower down to lower species such as the animals and insects and water, those aquatic animals and so forth. And those in the mode of ignorance go to the hellish world. So you're in like real deep modes of ignorance. They're real deep mode of ignorance places for you to live in and to face out the karma that you need to experience for those activities that you commit, those abominable activities. So you do good things, you get good reactions. You do bad things, you get bad reactions. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. Even in the governmental system or at home, we can understand this. When you're a kid, if you do good things, oftentimes your parents reward you. Maybe they cook your favorite dinner. Maybe they get your favorite toy. Maybe they let you have ice cream for breakfast. Whatever the case may be. But if you act badly, you get sent to the corner. Maybe you get spanked. Maybe you get your toys or your games or whatever taken away. Maybe you're not allowed to go out anymore. So pretty basic. You do good, you get good. You do bad, you get bad. But this is still acting in the modes of material nature. So I'll go a little more in depth into these different modes. The same chapter, 6 through 8, it is stated that, O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reaction. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. The mode of ignorance is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti, and because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive activities. O son of Bharata, know that the mode of darkness, born of ignorance, is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul. So, Krishna right here is giving us like a rough outline of the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. He shows you what exactly would you see from this. So you can understand kind of what modes you're in by reading this. Okay, if I'm sleeping too much and I'm kind of acting mad and all that, then I'm probably messing with the mode of ignorance a little too much. Or, if I got so many desires and longings, I'm in the mode of passion. But with goodness is more illuminating. Knowledge comes from being in the mode of goodness, but it also tells you the bad defects of these things. You hear goodness and passion, it's like, okay, I get that's bad, but oftentimes people are like, but being good, that's bad too. Well, being in the material mode of goodness is bad. There's Shuddha Sattva, and then there's just Sattva. Shuddha Sattva is beyond mode of goodness, it's pure goodness. Shuddha Sattva, Sattva is still, the mode of goodness is still generally tinged with one of the modes, a little bit at least. And you get conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. Sometimes people are just they're living such in the mode of goodness, eating healthy, they have really nice relationships with people, they got good career, good knowledge and all that. But because of that, maybe they're a little puffed up, they think they're a little bit better than other people. Or even if they're not thinking like that, they're thinking their life is so good that they don't really need to bother with doing too much else. They won't necessarily take the endeavor to go into a spiritual path or whatever. Sometimes you hear people like that. You talk to them, they're like, well, my life's so good. Like, I got this going for me, I got that going for me. And because of that, they're trapped. They're stuck and entrapped by the mode of goodness. Even though everything's good, they're doing good things and all that, they're still trapped under the modes. And their illusion because of it. They don't see things as they are, incomplete. They think things are too good to be true. And it's also mentioned that Osana Bharata, the mode of goodness, conditions one to happiness, passion, conditions one to fruit of action, and covering one's knowledge binds one to madness, as I just mentioned. So in verse 17, it said that from the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance, foolishness, madness, and illusion develop. So all these depend on what modes we're associating with. If I associate with people or things in the mode of ignorance, I'm going to take on some of that. Same with passion, I'll take on some of that. Same with goodness, I'll take on that. So we're constantly fluctuating between different levels of these modes. Sometimes I'm in more modes of ignorance, sometimes more modes of goodness. From different times, places, and circumstances, I'm going to face these things to different extents if I allow myself to associate with all these different modes often and frequently. If we're unaware of these things, these could become a real serious issue, and they'll make us do things that we're not wanting to necessarily do. Not everybody's desiring to act out and suffer for their reactions, or get angry at someone. Oftentimes you hear after an argument, especially if it's from a family member or a good friend, they may come up to you and be like, what, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say those things I said. Because during that time, they were in a different mode, and they didn't necessarily mean it, but those things came out under that mode. So if we're not aware of these things and how to overcome these things, these could become a serious problem because they control us like a little. I don't know, I think all of us here have seen the image where there's a man and he's bound up by strings, and there's three little puppeteers. The goodness and passion and ignorance are controlling him like a puppet. So people, they think they're the doer, they think they're, I'm doing this, I'm desiring this, and that, but in reality, it's the modes that are doing things, it's the modes that are making them desire things, it's all these things making them do this, because ultimately, in the biggest sense, as I said, all you do is desire. So from that, your body can act. You have different living entities controlling your body for you, according to those desires under the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So you are pretty much just, for lack of better words, the observer of these things. You desire, and so other living entities and God Himself are carrying out these desires for you. And they're moving you like a puppet within this material body. So even in goodness, one is in the material modes of nature. So, but one often has to use the mode of goodness to as like a launching pad to get to the spiritual platform, because they're not associated with things that are going to lower their consciousness. They're going to see things in a better state. They're going to do things properly. You know, that a person in the mode of goodness isn't going to want to take intoxication or um, or cheat on their partner or so forth. They got the proper knowledge. They're situated properly, but you got to go beyond that. So mode of goodness prepares you to launch beyond that. That's oftentimes what the four regulative principles helps us with. You know, if you're just following the four regular principles of no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, you're just following those just to follow them, then you're just being pious. It doesn't really, it helps you to not commit super sinful things, but you're not on the spiritual platform solely because you follow these principles. But following these principles helps you to go beyond it. You're not committing super sinful things, but also allows you to be able to go beyond that just the mode of goodness. It prepares you. So it should be a preparation. Krishna also mentions, and this is a famous verse in regards to these three modes, that Daivihya Saguna Mai Mama Maya Duratyaya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Mayam Tam Tarantite, that this divine energy of mine consisting in three modes of material nature is very difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So he gives us the key right there. These material modes are very hard to overcome, and we can't do it on our own. If we're trying to do it on our own, you're still under the modes. You still think you're the controller, you still think you're the doer. But he's saying that if you just surrender unto him, you can cross beyond it. As simple as that. Turn your back to Krishna, you're going to be under these modes. But as soon as you face towards him and realize, you know what, you are my ultimate reality, you're my ultimate truth, you're my ultimate love, you realize that you have that connection with them, then ultimately, right there, you can cross beyond these material modes, because now you know the ultimate truth. Okay, I have a loving relationship with you. I'm in this material world trying to serve myself, trying to act like I'm you. All these problems are ultimately coming from my ignorance of our relationship, my ignorance of this material world or reality in general. I'm suffering because of this. And because of that, I'm being controlled under these modes. But as soon as you surrender unto him, okay, I know that you're the ultimate truth. I know that I have a connection with you. I know that my ultimate position is as your loving eternal servant. Now, even in the material world, the modes are going to have the least bit, if any, effect on you if you stay within your proper consciousness. So as soon as we act in Krishna consciousness, we're beyond these modes of material nature. Now you go from goodness, passion, and ignorance to pure goodness. You're acting in the position. You're a fish back in the water. You're taken out of the water and you're suffering all these miseries of the heat, the oxygen that's getting to, the dryness, all this stuff. Now you're back in the water where you can breathe. You got proper moisture. You're not in the blazing sun. You know, you're back in your proper position. And actually, instead of just flopping around and all that, you get to swim. You get to like beautifully glide around the waters now because you're in your proper position. When we're taken out of the spiritual world and into the material world, we just flop around, suffering, not knowing what's the proper thing to do and the not proper thing to do. We don't know, as they say, what is to be done and what is not to be done. We don't know what is right or wrong. We have completely no knowledge of this. But when we're back in the spiritual world, we could glide around because we know what's right. We know what our position. We know how to act. We know how to please Krishna. So this material world, it's like a prison. Ultimately, it is a prison. It's here to reform you. You didn't act properly, you acted out. So here's kind of like a little place, a correctional place. Ultimately, of course, these things aren't exactly happening to you in the sense that it's happening to your spiritual body. You know, spiritual body doesn't die. It's not facing death or old age or any of these things, but you're put in such illusion that you believe these things. So you're suffering in that sense. But the good part is that this prison has an open door. Any of us could walk out at any time. It's not that you have to stay here for a certain period, or as some people say, you got to be in hell for all of eternity just because you made the wrong decisions. No, you make your corrections and you can decide that I want to leave. However, in this material world, there's so many distractions and so many attachments that keep us here. But no one is forcing you to be here. It's all up to you. That is your desire. You desire Krishna, or you desire Maya, your own sense gratification. There's nobody keeping you here besides yourself. So, what do you even find appeasing here? Everything non-spiritual ends in the end anyway. Anything you have good in this material world is going to come to an end. And it's just suffering from the beginning. Birth, both for the mother and the child, is suffering. When the child's in the womb, it gets bit by all these different types of entities, and it has to be cramped up. You know, the mother, she is having to eat a certain way. She's having to watch herself. And by the time that she does give birth, oh my gosh, the pain and stuff coming from that's a whole nother thing. There's just so much in that. And then, you know, you still have to face disease at some point, then old age if you're lucky to get to that, and death. And between that, you're still facing the problems from the mind and the body. You're still facing problems from other living entities, and you're still facing problems from natural disasters. Either way, you're still suffering one way or another. Whether you're in knowledge of that or not, you're suffering. So what is the reason to stay here when you know that there is something way beyond this? When you have the knowledge, don't stay in ignorance. You have the knowledge. Krishna comes down and gives us the knowledge that here's the reality of this material world, and there's a spiritual world where there is no birth, death, old age, and disease. There's none of these problems. And you originally are from there anyway. It's coming back home. You're in the strange land where you don't belong, and you know people mistreat you and all that. Just come back home. You don't need to stay there. Come back. Even Buddha, Krishna comes down in the form of Buddha, and he states that this world is suffering. That's one of the Four Noble Truths, is that this world is suffering. And one of the second truth of the Four Noble Truths is that the main cause of this is your attachments. Your attachments are causing the suffering. I'm attached to this person, whether it's my partner or my family member or friend, and then either an argument or something or death even separates us. Now I was so attached. Now that creates such great pain in my heart because I don't have that. When a child, they desire something, the parent says no. Oh my gosh, that child throws such a fit over it. So all these attachments and desires we have are causing us to stress. Now it's not that you should be without attachments. I'm not exactly saying that. It's just where you place your attachments, your desires. Because it's a living entity. Naturally, there is attachments and desires. If it's here, then this means it's a reflection of what's in the spiritual world. So that means that we're placing our attachments and desires on the wrong things. We're putting it on temporary and unreal things. But our attachment should be to Krishna and the spiritual world, the spirit, our natural position, that connection. But when we're placing it on all these temporary things, of course, we're going to get distressed. We're going to be upset. We're going to suffer from that. Because it's not natural. We've lived for an eternity in the spiritual world where everything lasts forever. Everything. And our desires are all based on Krishna, and they're always fulfilled in Krishna by serving Krishna and seeing his desires get fulfilled. But now that we're in this material world and our desires are perverted to something else and our attachments are temporary and all that, we're going to face We're going to face problems from that. It's not natural for us. So there's good and bad attachment. The problem is that we're attached to plastic gems and we're being offered rubies and diamonds. Krishna comes and sends down representatives to give us these valuable gems, but we're too attached to our own plastic gems that we won't accept these things. One time Prabhupada was asked, like, if this is like so amazing in Krishna consciousness, why isn't there so many people here? And his response was, when you're selling diamonds, not everybody's going to buy diamonds, but the diamonds are still diamonds. So only the people that really value them are going to come buy the diamonds. So we're being freely gifted these beautiful gems, but we're not taking it because we're attached to our own plastic and broken glass. But we're being given this. Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtana. This greatest wealth coming straight from Goloka itself. Goloka's wealth is coming down in the form of the holy name. Harinam Chintamani. This is the greatest gem that you can have, the gem of the holy name. Within this name, everything is present, such as our connection to Krishna, our original form, God's pastimes, the spiritual world, all the way to Krishna himself. Everything is within these names. Everything. It's just three names. We can look at it so mundanely. It's just material sound. It's just three names. It's just 32 syllables. You're just constantly chanting this. But beyond just that, there's everything in there. Everything, including God himself, is in there. And from chanting this, pure love of God comes. Our natural awakening to ourself comes. We become on a spiritual platform simply by chanting these names. It's the greatest gift. Krishna, he says, how does it? Dharman, Sarva Dharman Parichaja Mamikam Sharanam Praja. Some devotees such as, why am I blanking on his name right now? Anja Prabhu, he goes a little bit further into this, and I like to think of this from time to time. He says, Dharma, Sarva Dharma Parichaja Nam Ekam Sharanam Praja. Because God himself are not different than his name. So Nam Ekam, make the name number one. Because the name is God himself. So from that, everything will come. And there's this beautiful song I want to mention that I believe, if I remember correctly, it's from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He mentions this beautiful song about Nityananda Prabhu in the holy name. And the first line says, Narya Godrume Nityananda Mahajana Prati Yache Nam Hata Jiver Karane. And here I'll read the translation, the whole song, where first line says, the land of Nadia on the island of Godruma, the magnanimous Lord Nityananda has opened up the marketplace of the holy name meant for the deliverance of all fallen souls. Opening, O people of faith, by the order of Lord Gauranga, O brothers, I beg these three requests of you. Chant Krishna, worship Krishna, and teach others about Krishna. Being careful to remain free of offenses, just take the holy name of the Lord, Krishna. Lord Krishna is your mother, Krishna is your father, Krishna is the treasure of your life. Giving up all sinful activities, carry on the worldly duties, only in relation to Lord Krishna. The showing of compassion to other souls by loudly chanting the holy name of Krishna is the essence of all forms of religion. So all previous and present acharyas were spreading this holy name, and now we have to continue this as a part of Mahaprabhu Sankirtan movement under Prabhupada's instructions. We've been given this gift of the holy name. Now we can spread this. Nityananda was over here. He opened up the marketplace of the holy name, saying, please take these holy names. And as such, he also approached people like Jagai and Madhai. And they didn't accept it at first, but then they did accept it. And they became glorious. They became glorious, and so can we. What good qualities do we really have in this material world? We're all cheaters. And if we're not cheating someone, we're still cheating ourselves in so many different ways. We're all cheaters. So what is our quality? What is our What is our qualification? But we're given this, regardless of who you are, where you are, who you're from, or what you've done. You're being given this holy name. So we could all go beyond these modes of material nature. We could go beyond these different births if we simply surrender to Krishna, love Krishna, chant Krishna, and live our lives in Krishna. Act in your normal position. Quit faking who you are. Be who you really are. Be true to yourself and be true to Krishna. Don't cheat yourself. Anyways, we'll end here. Is there any questions? Okay, Mataji was first.
You were talking about the mode of goodness. One thing you can say about it, because it really bewilders people, mode of goodness, what's wrong with the mode of goodness, you know? How are you going to? One important point about the mode of goodness is, and I know Srila Prabhupada picked us all up out of the mode of ignorance and passion. I mean, he just catapulted us right out of it. That's why he's considered, you know, to deliver the most fallen first. And you guys have a higher birth than we did. We were like, you know, had our face in the mud. But the mode of goodness, I know Clint Eastwood, I was just reading that on the internet, that Clint Eastwood is a billionaire. And every year, he donates millions of dollars to different charities. And he still drives a 1996 or 2006 vehicle. He lives really modestly. Anyway, that would be considered the mode of goodness, right? One factor that I've always told people about the mode of goodness, because I used to preach in Los Angeles, and there's a lot of mode of goodness people in that part of the country, is that it's the same as the mode of passion and the mode of ignorance. There's not as much suffering. It's a much cleaner life, but you're incurring karma. And with karma, there's a reaction. So you're going to have to take birth again to reap the reaction of your good karma. Once that good karma is used up, you're going to be incurring more karma. And that karma may not be good. You know, you may be incurring bad karma as you're reaping the benefits of your good karma, because you're not going to remember in your next life that you're incurring the benefits of your good karma. So it's a very precarious position to be in. So that being said, better to understand spiritual knowledge and get out of all three of the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, you know, like that. So that's a really important point to mention to people about the mode of goodness, because they don't quite understand, you know, mode of goodness. That is spiritual, you know, like that. So
I think that's a good point. I mean, we've all done mode of goodness things and even became demigods, but we're still here in the material world. All right, Prabhuji.
I've seen a few verses. Nice class. One of them was that, just in regards to what she said, Suta Goswami says, Dharma swanushtita pumsam vishvakshena katashuyaha notpariyad yatira tim shrama eva hikevalam, that whatever we do, whatever dharma we do in human society, if we don't develop vishvakshena kata ruchi, or rati, attachment for the message of Krishna, then it's shrama eva kevalam, it's useless. And then I was thinking about that the Bhagavad Gita is kind of mirrored in the Uddhava Gita, but Krishna gives more details. And I thought I found this verse, which is nice because it gives a little bit of a deeper, I think we'll go into that maybe on Friday. I'll go into some of these verses, a little deeper description of each mode. So I'll just read it because it's good to hear since we're all here. So Krishna says, mind and sense control, tolerance, discrimination, sticking to one's prescribed duty, truthfulness, mercy, careful study of the past and future, satisfaction in any condition, generosity, renunciation of sense gratification, faith in the spiritual master, being embarrassed at improper action, charity, simplicity, humbleness, and satisfaction within oneself are qualities of the mode of goodness. Very nice description. Material desire, great endeavor, audacity, dissatisfaction even in gain, false pride, praying for material advancement, considering oneself different and better than others, sense gratification, rash eagerness to fight, a fondness for hearing oneself praised, the tendency to ridicule others, advertising one's own prowess and justifying one's own actions by one's strength are qualities of the mode of passion. Intolerant anger, stinginess, speaking without scriptural authority, violent hatred, living as a parasite, hypocrisy, chronic fatigue, quarrel, lamentation, delusion, unhappiness, depression, sleeping too much, false expectations, fear, and laziness constitute the major qualities of the mode of ignorance.
Thank you. That was really nice too. Alright, well, I think it's Prasam time, so Karantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.